Welcome to Dear Romance Writer, where three writers who always deliver happily ever afters offer questionable advice for all of your relationship, work, and life problems. I am Avery Flynn.
I'm Roan Parrish.
And I'm Zio Axelrod. We have a terrific show for you today with the amazing Mia Sosa.
Yay!
Tell us all about yourself, Mia. Where you're in Virginia, DC, Maryland?
Maryland.
Right, yeah.
Yep, right outside of Annapolis.
Welcome.
So I am Mia Sosa. Let's see, brief description. I write funny, flirty, moderately dirty, said in the most lovingly way, romance.
I like that.
I like that. Is that your tag?
Yeah.
It should be your tag if it is.
Good. Okay, good. Because I like that.
Yeah, so I'm a writer. I haven't been writing for super long. I think my first book came out in 2015. Seems like a decade ago, not quite. And
we're all counting in dog years now.
So exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And my next release is The Wedding Crasher, which comes out in April.
I'm so excited for that. Wait, didn't you just get another starred review for that?
I did.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
From Booklist. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I was like, go Mia.
I will say The Worst Best Man, which came out, is the first book in this series.
Yes.
Was one of my favorite reads the year it came out. Absolutely, hands down, loved and adored it. So if you guys haven't read it and you want to read a really good book, go grab it. Fully endorsed.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is surreal to listen to this, just because I look at all three of you and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing and they write amazing books. And so telling you guys like my books is just really.
Oh my God, yeah.
One of us. One of us. There you go. Yeah. Well, Mia, we are super excited to have you here to join us in offering questionable advice for sure. And before we get to our letter of the week, though, it's been a week. They keep being weeks. I don't know what to say. So let's see. Y'all, tell me something exciting or fun that happened to you this week.
Ooh. Well, so it was my birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Happy belated birthday.
21 years old, finally.
21. I can finally drink. Just kidding.
By the way, that's really awkward when you spend your 21st birthday at the bar you've been going to for a while. So just FYI on that.
I know. I would be really charmed if there were people who like actually hadn't drunk until they were 21. Anyway, it was my 40th birthday. Almost.
Woohoo! Welcome to the good decade.
Yeah. And so my girlfriend had like planned a whole birthday thing and she wouldn't tell me where we were going. So we just drove and she was like, okay, park here. And then she took me to a cat cafe, which
oh my God, that is perfect for you.
I know, I've always wanted to go to one, and I had like a very out loud in public response when I saw the place I was going. So it was so sweet, and we were the only people there for a while because Timmy had made like an appointment for us to be there, and so we were just like, it was just us and 15 cats, and we were like cuddling them all and playing with them all, and it was amazing. So it is in Brewery Town on Girard Avenue in Philadelphia if anyone wants to go, and they're all available for adoption, so you can go in and you can kind of like make a cat friend and then adopt it. I alas cannot introduce another cat into the ecosystem.
Menagerie.
To hear that, but if anybody is looking for a cat, every single damn one of these cats I would like take home with me. They were so sweet, so friendly. Some of them became obsessed with us and started following us around. Some pretended like they didn't care about us because, you know, cats, but it was.
I like how you put that as some pretended. I mean, you knew they were lying. They were still obsessed with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was lovely and amazing and exactly the perfect thing for me.
I might have to, well, I can't go there, but I might send Mr. X there. I didn't even know they had one.
Don't go, Zio, because not only will it be like an allergy hell, it also is very ammonia smelling, which I feel.
Oh yeah, I can't go anywhere near there, but I will definitely send him because both Mr. X and Roan are both cat whisperers. Like I've been places with Roan where like the cats just came out of nowhere and just followed her around. So like
I love them so much. And that's what happened at this place too, which I don't take personally because I think they are just cats that probably were friendly to everyone. Unlike in that in Paris when the cats kept finding me, but it was really truly delightful, and I highly recommend if you have a cat cafe near you.
I love that. They do that as a big fundraiser for the SPCA here where we are.
Cool.
And like they have it's like a mall, but it's got an outside part. It's very weird. I don't understand it, but they like rent out like one of the spots, one of the little storefronts basically, and do it basically spring and summer. So
That's
spring is
cool.
perfect because that's when all the kitties come.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, this wasn't actually serving any food or anything because pandemic, but if there's like a spot that you can rent out to do that, I would oh my God, book reading, author
Oh,
reading,
that would be so
where
fun.
people sit and there are just cats everywhere. I mean, Zio couldn't come without
Nope.
a gas. But
I couldn't come either.
oh no. Okay,
Yeah.
so
we'd zoom in.
that idea.
Well, I spent this week trying to talk the Fab Mr. Flynn into letting us be foster parents for our local animal shelter. And I was like, we can do puppies, and puppies will get picked right away. So we won't have them for longer than like 5 or 6 weeks. And he refuses. Can you believe it? His limit is
Nuts.
actually hard limit at 5 dogs and a cat. So I'm quite hurt by that. And if you guys would like to start a petition, I say yes.
See, but I think puppies, that's an instant new housemate. And so I understand where he's coming from.
You know what? Don't start your petition, Mia. No petition for you.
Sorry.
I want my way, damn it.
Could
I
you like
get it.
sneak
I get
one?
it.
Like, is your house set up in such a way that you could? Because this is such a like book that I would like to read, where you snuck a puppy and you were trying to foster it in the garage or in like a closet or something, and he was like, "What's that
Have you
sound?"
been around puppies?
No, never.
Okay, that answers. But I like how you think. I love the deviousness of it. Absolutely. No, that would not work.
No, I haven't been around puppies. I've just read romance novels, and it seems like that's something that would work in a romance.
It would totally work in a romance novel. It would. In real life, not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much. It's sort of like a public proposal. Works in a romance novel, even if you're like, in real life, you're always like, oh God, that's gonna go poorly. So yeah, that's my week. How about you guys, Zio and Mia?
Week's just been going, trying to not let the top of my head pop off.
Not doom scroll.
Not well. I know I have been doom scrolling.
Oh, good.
I've been doom scrolling. Yeah.
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 It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. How about
you, Mia? Anything fun this week?
So technically it didn't happen to me, but my husband says it did happen to us. Our daughter turned 18. He's like, we need to take credit for that. And so therefore,
yes.
I'm like, yeah, it's a big deal. So we celebrated.
This is a good thing.
Yes. And she is good and sweet and loves her younger sister, and they get along fabulously, and she's off to college soon. So it's kind of all of this stuff. It's coming at us all at once, but it's, on the one hand, I'm terrified of her leaving home. On the other hand, I'm super excited for her and for her future. And so it's that, it's basically me at my age going back and forth like I do every day. Like, I'm good, I'm not good, I'm sad. That's my life right now. So this is all just fitting very well with that.
I have an open can of chocolate frosting in my fridge that I have hidden away so nobody can tell. So I feel your pain. As somebody who sent a kid to college last year, and she's there now, I highly recommend it. Emergency chocolate frosting, Betty Crocker. She's
as soon as I get off Whole30. Which is what I'm doing now. What was I thinking?
I don't know. Glutton for punishment.
I could do
Well, it's
something fun.
just I'm actually trying to figure out what my food triggers are because I definitely
Mm.
have them.
Mm.
And so somebody was like, "Have you tried Whole 30?" And I was like, "That sounds like something I would never want to do." And they're like, "Yes, but you're only doing it for 30 days." So I'm trying it, and I have figured out at least one thing, which is that I am allergic to corn. So
Oh, wow.
Really?
yeah, I got
That's a
hives
big
and
one.
itching, and I was just like, "What? What is this?" But I mean, I guess the idea is because you're dealing only with a certain amount of foods, then you can isolate kind of
Yeah.
what
And
might
what?
be
Find
the
out what?
trigger for
Yeah.
certain things. And so I'm really looking forward to what is called re-entry, when you start bringing everything back so that you can figure out what else is bothering you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's the first thing? My birthday's on the 11th, so I think it'll be alcohol.
I think I endorse this.
Well, happy early birthday.
Yeah. Happy
Thank
early
you.
birthday.
Thank you. So
I did do something fun last week. I made meringues, which I'd never done before, but we
Ooh.
had like a bazillion egg whites in the fridge. So I was like, what can I do with this? Because they're so sweet, you know. But they turned out okay, not bad. Like I actually did the whole like piping thing, and
Oh.
you're supposed to you bake them really low for like an hour, and then you turn the oven off. And the challenge is you can't open the oven for like 2 or 3 hours because they have to dry out. So I was like, every time Mr. X went downstairs, like, don't touch the oven, don't open the oven, because he wants to check, you know. I'm like, don't open the oven,
Don't do it. Don't even
don't
look
do it.
at it.
Yeah. He's like,
I
what if we?
take
I'm like,
mine
no.
shut.
Huh? What'd you
When
say?
I take mine shut when I have to do that, like I
Do
put
you?
an actual baker's tape, because my memory is zero. And I've done that like with other baked goods where it's like you're supposed to let them dry out in the oven, or you're supposed to turn the oven off, the temperature off, and then like let them just finish cooking. And
Yeah.
I'm like a goldfish brain. And so I put a piece of tape so that I like physically cannot sabotage myself.
Okay, maybe next time I will do that. But no, he was good. I reminded him every time, so he didn't do it. But
Yeah. That sounds good.
That
I would
sounds good.
like that.
Well, okay. I am so glad that we had some things that happened that were good in our week, because now we're about to read a letter from someone who does not have good things going on. This letter is really interesting, and I'm super curious to hear everybody's thoughts on it. So this was not a letter written to us. This was a letter to the How to Do It column from slate.com, which is like a sex, everything to do with sex questions column. So our letter: Dear How to Do It, I'm a woman who, since I was a teenager, has had my entire sexuality centered on cops. Through experimentation, I've learned that role play, handcuffs, and a uniform are not enough. I prefer the real thing. So I sleep with cops, and I love every second of it. But these men have not made good romantic partners for me long term. I'm looking for a serious relationship. Mostly because they tend to be right wing. I'm not, and also often have anger issues, PTSD, and or alcoholism issues. I think I'll always be holding out for an officer who is the exception to the rule, but in the meantime, I'd like to be able to orgasm from a civilian. Can I somehow rewire what arouses me? I think it's the real power over my life that turns me on. Doing quote unquote pretend power exchange with, say, a software developer or an accountant doesn't hit the spot. Signed, Yes, Officer.
That's so specific.
That
So
really is. That is
specific.
very specific.
It is, and I it was in our, I don't remember which one of you had put it in. I didn't originally find it, but I chose it for this week because I thought it was something that we hadn't really talked about before, was like what happens if your kink does not line up with your values, and like how do you reconcile those things, or can you even? So I was really curious to hear what you all thought about that.
All right. Well, I'm doing a Google search right now. So that's kind of what this one did to me. That is interesting in how specific it is, and also worrisome kind of in just beyond, let's take like the political aspect out just for a second, just the centering in on one specific sexual desire based around somebody's job is an interesting fetish, because it almost feels like this is specifically fetishizing because it's not anything about the person themselves. It is
Yeah.
all centered around the occupation, which to me
Yeah.
is what takes something from being a kink to a fetish, or a preference to a fetish. But that's kind of what I'm stuck on right now. But I just, yeah, I don't even, that is really interesting. You guys have flummoxed me. Flummoxed.
Yeah, well, like the having power over my life is an interesting choice of words.
Mhm.
It's just, yeah, it's kind of disturbing actually reading this, because
I agree. I was actually super disturbed, not by the, I mean, I think that I want to be like super clear that having a kink for something
yeah,
in sex is not in any way related to your personal, emotional, political, or psychic feelings about a person, a job, or whatever. So I want to be clear that when I say that it was creeped me out, it was not because of the kink part. I do think, I mean, I have so many questions. First, I assume that this is a white cis woman, because I sort of cannot, or I suppose a white gay man, because I sort of cannot conceive, well, I can conceive of it because what I just said about kink, but I feel like if this person were non-white, something about racial dynamics and police violence would have like come up in this letter. And that was the piece to me that I was like, wow, it's so fascinating that someone could write a letter like this and like not say anything about
it. Yeah.
Because she says she's not right wing, but like right wing is way far on the spectrum of like.
Here's my only thought to that I just want to interject real quick, is there is a whole, just to bring our industry into things, there are people, authors of color, who write master slave romance, who write
I was just thinking about
so
that.
I don't know if I'd make that automatic jump into it being a white cis person, but that's just me.
But I think Roan's got a point. If it was say an African American woman or man, there would be some language in here
at least. You would think,
because they say right wing, but they don't say anything about the racial aspect. So
there's a certain awareness here of kind of what issues arise for them personally, and I would be very surprised, even if you are the kind of person who would write a master slave story, that you wouldn't acknowledge that there's an issue there, or that there is something about that particular preference that you feel uncomfortable with. I would expect that.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. Like if I know that Nazi fetishism is a thing, but as a Jewish person, if I had a Nazi fetish, I don't think that I would ever write a letter about it where I didn't say something like, I'm Jewish and this makes me really uncomfortable because they literally murdered my family, kind of thing. I feel like that, it doesn't mean that I couldn't have that fetish. I totally could, but I do think that it would sort of like feed into part of my concern. Whereas this person's concern to me is strictly along the lines of like reconciling a kink with the long-term relationship and romance that they want. And so they're like, these people are fine for the sex part of what I want, but they're some of the social behaviors that go with their job in this person's experience are not good for like a boyfriend that she wants. So yeah, I feel like it's not I'm not positive, but I do feel
well, and also with the letter, it's not a concern of, hey, this specific slice of life right here is exactly what I'm attracted to. That's not, she didn't have, I say she, because I'm with you. I kind of just assume the letter writer's woman. The letter writer doesn't seem to have a problem with that at all. The problem seems to arise in the fact that they are not meeting her needs outside of sex. And I think that can actually be kind of a universal thing. What do you do when you meet somebody and you are attracted to every single part of that person? You're attracted to that person, but they don't meet your needs anywhere except for the bedroom, or you're missing something out. This is sort of that, I love everything about this person except for their politics. I love everything about this person except for their job. I love everything about this person except for the fact that I can't have an orgasm during sex with them. Whatever that thing is. And sometimes these things are enough that it's a no-go, and sometimes these things are things you can work around, and the only person really that can figure that out is you.
It's interesting that she and she does identify herself as a woman at the beginning. Yeah. Okay. It's interesting that she talks about the officers that she's been with in terms of their issues, anger issues, PTSD, alcoholism. And then she says, I think I'll always hold out for an officer who's an exception. Whatever your opinion is of the police force in the United States, there are officers out there that don't deal with these issues. So the fact that she keeps gravitating towards these type of men says a lot more about what's going on here than just her specific fetish. She's not just going after or going, putting herself out there for police officers. She's putting herself out there for police officers of a certain ilk. And I think that's the bigger issue here. Because it's such, someone who has power over your life, as she puts it, could be in the military. They could be a politician. They could be a bunch of things other than a cop. So this is that's why I said this is kind of disturbing, that it's almost like, I don't know, there's a lot going on here.
So I'm really curious to see what the advice was that they gave at Slate.
Yeah, well, so the advice they gave it was very brief. I did look because it was right underneath. The respondent, whose name I'm forgetting, asked if this person had like explored their kinks and their sexual desires vastly, and that if so, then maybe it was true that like a cop was the thing that got them off, and only that, but that they were thinking that maybe this person had some exploration to do, and some exhaustive exploration to do that was like a little bit more based on like kind of like the Whole30, but with sex, like kinks, like find out what are the things that trigger you, like in a good way, and what are the things that.
Oh my God, I would read the shit out of that book. Just so you know, the Whole30, but with sexual exploration, I would read the shit out of that.
Great.
Well, actually.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Mia, you should write it because you've done the Whole30. I have not, but yeah, I think like, so that was the letter writers or the respondents' only advice was see what other kinks you might have, because this is so specific that I would be surprised if it wasn't found elsewhere. Because like Zio is saying, having power over your life, like interestingly, that is something that I think a lot of cis women feel about all men they have sex with, is that it's scary because you have power over my life. So
which
that
actively seeking that out. Yeah. It's so hard for me to think of this outside of the context of the racial dynamics.
Yeah.
So I'm coming back to that. And it's just, and so the fact that this person hasn't raised a racial dynamic component as part of it kind of makes me wonder again about perhaps what Slate was suggesting, sort of the extensiveness of her search, and that perhaps if that isn't an issue for her, then maybe the answer is to go out there and explore more or different situations in which there may be that power imbalance that she's looking for, but that doesn't lead to the deterioration of the relationship in other areas. I don't know. It's so striking to me that she's identified this specific thing, and that it has resulted in these kinds of relationships. Because I gotta believe, like Zio said, that there are some cops out there who are kind and loving and would provide perhaps what she's looking for. But again, like my natural inclination is to be like, you don't want that. And I have to take a step back and say, like, it's not for me to say, right? But it's all so complicated when you think about kind of trying to encourage somebody to fulfill their sexual needs while at the same time trying to meet all of their other needs, because sometimes that is incompatible.
I wonder what like you can have a power dynamic sexual relationship that doesn't involve somebody with a military or police or that type of background, right? And those relationships don't mean that, you know, this is somebody who's cruel outside of it or has PTSD or all of those things. It is simply part of the sexual relationship, or if you are in a like full scale or full time, I'm getting the lingo all wrong, DS relationship, then, you know, that also could be something. But what I wonder is if the letter writer kind of craves that type of relationship, but for whatever reason doesn't find it acceptable to seek that out. And so therefore fetishizing someone because of their job is as close as she can get to realizing that. And so that's why it's specifically police officers as opposed to military, as opposed to just a general ceding of control BDSM type of relationship. So that
part of her
again leads to the exploring outside of where you're at type of thing.
Part of her fetish is that she, like she says, she pretend power, quote unquote, a power exchange with a software developer or an accountant doesn't hit the spot. So there's something going on in her brain where it has to be that close to real. That has to be that real. Like this person's position of power has to be that real for this anything to happen. I do wonder how old she is.
Oh, yeah.
And if like what her relationships were like before she said since she was a teenager. So this feels like someone who doesn't have a lot of experience outside of this kind of relationship, who maybe hasn't done any exploration in the BDSM world, because going from a abusive police officer to a software developer or accountant is a huge leap.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff missing in here.
You know,
But
the
it
really
is so-
interesting thing
go ahead,
that
Mia.
I just thought about is what is the precise power that this person has over her in
life.
this particular situation? Like it's something that she's seeking out, but I'm wondering, by virtue of this person being a cop, how do you perceive that as then this person having actual power over you?
Right.
Which certainly never would be my reaction.
Well, and she doesn't bring up any like that they're doing any kind of, you know, ceding of power or anything like that. It almost sounds like it's totally mental in her brain.
That's what I mean. There's something going on that's just, unless it's real, unless that part is real, it's like not good enough. It's
But it's you know what? Human sexuality is so cool because it's such a mystery. I mean,
true.
There are I'm sure there's if you can't say everybody, but except for probably a few exceptions, people don't wake up and say this is the type of thing that I'm attracted to, as far as how you like to have sex, as far as what really turns you on, what flips your trigger, what is acceptable to you, what is not acceptable to you, all of that. And it is such, like, we talk about like human sexuality and, you know, in terms of that, but we don't really, at least I have never, and readers, if you get listeners, if you guys know of any great books on this, I would love to read them, about sort of the psychological dynamics of human desire. We read about sexuality, but when it comes to desire itself, that is a much bigger sort of, it just is what it is type of thing.
It's interesting to me that you know, some fetishes or kinks begin not because of the thing itself, but because it's associated with a moment in your life when you got very turned on, when you had really good sex. And so I would be curious if this is someone who like, and this is, I do not mean to psychoanalyze this person as if there has to be some like Freudian reason for this or anything, but I do wonder if this is the person who like grew up with a crush on a dad's best friend who is a cop, or like an older brother's friend who is a cop, or has a whole family full of cops, and so she's been around these people her whole life. Or if like the first person she ever had sex with was a cop and it was really good, and then she just kind of got fixated on that thing.
Or did she just obsessively watch Law and Order, and that's like it, you know?
Well, look, we have a whole sort of subgenre in romance.
Right.
You know, there are many readers who enjoy romances with cops as
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, the main character, and there is something associated with that, I think, for many of readers. You know, this sense of power, not the power imbalance, but the sense of power that's associated with a person who is an authority.
It's like a
Um,
protective thing though, most of the time.
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
think,
right,
yeah.
right. And
Also
what,
with military romance. Yeah.
what's interesting to me is whether that's potentially was the start of it, is this sort of, you know, seeking out this protectiveness,
Mhm.
seeking out someone who you perceive will be your protector, and then desiring that, but then not desiring everything else that comes along with it, which is the not so nice stuff that she mentioned in the letter.
And
So
that line,
her
power over my life,
perception,
is really jumps
yeah,
out
her
every time I
perception
look at
might
it.
be that, but I just wonder whether what she's seeking is something else, and it's that sense of, you know, and I think also in pop culture, we generally just have this sense of, you know, people in uniform are generally regarded as attractive and powerful and all of that. So you could see that somebody might have that sort of first interest, and then it turns into something else, which
Mhm.
is, you know, what might have happened with this reader. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions
Thoughts.
don't need to be said
Yeah.
here about Romancelandia's cop and military, what I will call a problem, but what you could neutrally call a situation. But we don't need to go into that here because it's like a different conversation. But I do think that one of the things about pop culture is that pop culture's stance on a particular type of person has the ability, as we well know, to influence what people think about that type of person,
Mhm.
for ill, for good, all of the things.
Absolutely.
And I do think that Romancelandia, like military and romances featuring cops and military people, like we construct, like Romancelandia as a whole constructs those as heroes in romance stories, right? And like popular culture often has the veteran, the cop, the like these are main characters. These are like many bits of pop culture associate those people with like justice, heroism, protection, safety, all of those things. And if this is if the letter writer is a person who grew up in our society and has like fed on a steady diet of that, I think that it could be that this is like a sex thing first, but it could be that it was a love thing first. Like it could be that this is someone who grew up reading romance and had crushes on romance heroes who were cops. Like I'm just free.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be any of these things, or like, yeah, shows like Law and Order absolutely portray cops as heroes. And so like these are things that we swim in in an ocean of positive representation of that. And so if what this person wanted was like to feel protected, to feel all those kind of things that we would call positive, and then also like Avery was saying, has a kink for power exchange, but didn't know that or thought that was like taboo in some way, I can see how those two things, like the worship of the positive aspects of how cops are coded, and then like the fetish for kink, like I could see how those things cross over in a way that's really interesting. Obviously we cannot we don't know why this person has this kink, and we don't need to figure it out, but I do think that like romances and popular culture and everything like do construct our ideas to some extent of like who is the hero, who is the savior, all those things in a way that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I did my Google search as we've been having this discussion, and I made it through with the question of, can you rewire what arouses you? Right? Because that's her core question here. Right. I made it through like 6 pages, and like everything is only on like rewiring your brain after porn addiction, or people who do a lot of woo-woo stuff. So and then a couple articles on the craptasticness that is, you know, like conversion therapy. So none of which I find valuable or worth clicking into. So I couldn't even, that is really
Never
interesting.
thought
But
of
I do think that, everybody has something that arouses them that maybe they aren't particularly happy with, or they wouldn't share with the world, or they're totally good with. It is interesting how arousal and desire sort of are different for everybody. And
Well, she's convinced herself that this is
Yeah.
this is it. And I'm
This is
hoping
it.
that she'll find a way to decouple what arouses her from the other
Yep.
part of it, which is this very specific
Mhm.
fetish.
Go explore, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, well, that was
Yeah.
okay, Mia, hanging in there. I got a deep one for Mia today.
I know.
That
Wasn't
was not our
expecting that,
normal
but
letter.
hey.
Well, we're going to switch gears completely, because we've all been sort of stuck inside for the last couple of years, for the most part. So I want to talk about hobbies. Do you guys have any hobbies? Have you had any hobbies? Have you picked up any new hobbies during this last 2 years now?
I can answer this for Roan. Yes.
So many.
There you go.
So many hobbies.
Many. We're gonna be here for a bit. Settle back, get a drink, put your feet up.
I was
Yeah.
literally like, I won't go first.
I'll go first. No. There you go.
But you didn't you?
You know
Get
what?
into, like-
I'll do puzzles every once in a while, but yeah, I'm really bad at hobbies. I'm very competitive. So like doing
No.
something for the enjoyment of it, I have a hard time with that. So yeah,
Are there
I
any
need
hobbies
therapy.
Are there hobbies that you like when you read about them in books or whatever? You're always kind of like, oh, that's fun. I want to read about that, even if you don't want to do the hobby yourself.
No. But I do enjoy mocking my best friends who both like to do like planners and stickers and things. I enjoy mocking
Oh, yeah, they
them.
do.
So that's my hobby, is calling them weirdos via text when they start talking about, oh, I got my new planner thing and it does this and it has that and I got the extra patch and I got stickers made. I'm like, you're a bunch of weirdos. But yeah. So yeah, don't look at me. Pass.
I actually I feel like for the past couple of years, it's almost like there's been this pressure to find a hobby. And I remember being like, perhaps I should have a hobby. Maybe I should be looking for something that I should do. And I remember mentioning once to my mother, I'm going to go and grab it so you can see.
Oh, I love this.
I'm off camera for a minute. But I remember saying to my mother once that I would like to start trying jewelry. And this is what she
so
got
you-
me.
She got you a little
Before
beading kit.
Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Has it been
As you can
opened?
see, it is not open.
Wait, how long have you had it?
I don't know if that's ever
It's
gonna happen.
Christmas.
But I thought about it. There's something about I like small spaces where I can work with my hands. And I thought, well, this would be good. And using the pliers and all of that might be fun. So I should try this. And perhaps after this, I will actually open up the box.
There you
And I hope my
go.
mother doesn't see this. She'll be like, you didn't even open it.
Look away, mom. Look away, Mia's mom.
What about you,
I'm
Tia?
trying to think. I guess the only hobby I have really is languages. I like learning new languages.
Ooh, yeah,
So
you do.
for the
That's
the
such
last,
a cool skill.
for the last couple of years, before the pandemic, I was sort of studying Norwegian off and on, like sort of casually. But then when we were during the lockdown, I decided to immerse myself in it. So I was watching the news every morning in Norwegian and the evening news and watching like Norwegian television and all this other stuff. So that was kind of like, it really, gave me my mind, occupied my mind for a bit while we were sort of going stir crazy.
Tell them about your
Urban.
Duolingo streaks.
Oh
Or is it-
yeah, I'm up to I'm almost at 1,500 days right now. So I'm like, I'll do a big
That is
post.
Wow.
And that's my second
That is
streak.
impressive.
My first streak ended like 600 days or something like that. So this is my second streak. But yeah, it's I don't know. My husband's like, you fall in love with countries. I'm like, I do. I do. I was in love with Portugal for a while, so I studied Portuguese, and then I fell in love with Norway. So yeah.
Nice.
And here you go.
Yeah.
So
My younger daughter started to learn Korean.
Oh
And-
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was cool.
I mean, and she's one of those with the planners and the notebooks and all of that stuff. And so she, you know, she wants to learn how to write it as well. It's been pretty impressive to watch her. Because I feel like the time of learning languages and having it actually seep into my brain is long past.
No, because there are so many authors in our group who are K-pop fans and like
Mhm.
K-drama
That's
fans,
true.
and quite a few of them are learning Korean because they want to
Really?
be able to,
Yes.
they want to be able to understand the lyrics. Yeah.
So step 1, make jewelry. Step 2,
Right.
Make jewelry, put on the Korean lessons while you're making the
Right.
jewelry. It'll just
Right.
seep in.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, Roan, I've got my coffee ready. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
We're all relaxed. Go.
Oh, bless you all. I swear I'm not going to list all my hobbies for you, but I will tell you this. My newest hobby is trying to figure out via TikTok videos if I actually am on the autism spectrum, which I know is like what everyone else is doing watching TikTok, or not everyone, but people whose feeds look like mine is doing. And I have been finding it shocking to learn that it's possible that my intense collection of hobbies for my entire life could be either my ADHD fixation on things, truncating autism obsessions, so that I have the obsessions, but instead of them lasting forever, like oftentimes they do with autism, they cycle the way sometimes things do with ADHD, so that those two combined have made me like get all these hobbies, and then some of them stick and others last for like 2 weeks, even when I think that they will change my entire life. They do, and then they go away. So that's my newest hobby, and it is really interesting to think about the way that I am toward hobbies, and wondering if it has that function, which it doesn't really matter either way if it does or doesn't. I just am constantly curious about myself. But yeah,
what are I'm curious now, what are examples of some of the hobbies that you've had over the years?
Okay.
Yeah.
Plants are my big one. Plants and cooking / baking are my big ones that I've had for a long time and have lasted for a long time. So I'm super into plants, gardening, baking, all those things. Any kind of like art thing I love, even the ones that I'm very, very bad at. So I've done jewelry making, I've done sculpture, pottery, painting, drawing, all those things. Paper making. Oh yeah, I'm very into paper making right now, and whittling. Anything that I see, I want to know how to make it myself or how it works. So like if I have a dish at a restaurant, I want to learn how to recreate it. If I see someone has built something in their front yard, I'm like, I could totally build that. Let me figure out how. And the things get like bigger and more grandiose. So like I will watch TikToks where people are like renovating an entire house and be like, I feel very equipped now. I'm gonna do that. I can do that. To the point where like my angel girlfriend Timmy and I are thinking about trying to buy a house together, and I mean we are going to try to buy a house together, but we're thinking about like where it's going to be and how and everything, and we've had like very serious talks because I need to know like what is the exact cutoff after which she is like, there's too much that needs to be done on this house, and you will do it really a lot for like a certain amount of time, but then you will stop. And then we will have a house that's only half renovated. So we cannot get a house that will like require you to like maintain all these projects forever.
You know what though? That's so important though, that you guys talk about that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people won't, they will just assume that knowledge that's in their head is just known, and especially when you're in a couple and you've been in a relationship for a while. So
very healthy.
Good job.
Thank you.
You're listening to your own advice.
Yes.
Thank you. But
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
that's a little list for you.
I
Wow.
love it.
Impressive.
Well, I'm gonna make a new hobby of observing Roan's hobbies, and
My hobby
vicariously
is
living
accepting
through
the
them.
gifts from Rowan's hobbies.
Yeah, there you go. See,
Plus,
it all
I
works
gotta
out.
have someone to give them to.
I will never
Well,
say no.
Mia, we loved having you here with us today.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Please tell us, tell our readers, or I keep calling them readers who are
Well, hopefully
listeners,
they
and
are readers
listeners
as
who
well.
are readers.
Maybe readers.
Yeah. Tell everybody where we can find you on social media, and give us the scoop on Wedding Crashers again, please, because I'm
Okay.
super excited.
Got it. Okay. So where can you find me? You can find me on Twitter. My handle is Mia Sosa Romance, and you can find me on Instagram at the same handle, Mia Sosa Romance. And then I have a website, miasosa.com, where you can sign up for my newsletter, which I don't send very often. So you're not signing up for a lot if you do that. And then The Wedding Crasher. So this is a book.
Wait, it's on the
about-
shelf behind you. Grab it. Oh, you've got a copy. Good. Yeah, because I'm like, it's such a pretty
Closer
cover.
for you. I love this cover. So The Wedding Crasher is about a love averse lawyer and groom who gets jilted at the altar and then ends up fake dating the woman who crashed and stopped his wedding. And it is a roller coaster. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm basically telling people, if you're not prepared to have fun, don't even pick it up. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. And that comes out on April 5th. So in just a little over a month. So
Yeah.
Yay.
All right. So we all have plans for April 5th now. For The Wedding
Yeah.
Crasher by me,
Yes.
Mia Sosa. Thank you again so much for being here. And thank
Oh,
you,
my pleasure.
everybody, for coming and hanging out with us for another episode of Dear Romance Writer. Please remember to send in your questions. You can do it via social media DM. You can fill out our form on our website, dearromancewriter.com. You can email it to us at advice@dearromancewriter.com. We accept all interesting stories, and even the less interesting stories, we'll take them. We want to hear what's going on. Also, if you have ideas of hobbies for Roan to take, please let us know, because she's going to need more in like a week and a half.
Yeah, tell us your
So,
really
yeah.
awesome hobby that Rowan
Yeah.
should pick up.
Yes,
We
please.
love that. So send in your questions. We can't wait to give you some questionable advice from this trio of happily ever after enthusiasts. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for subscribing to Dear Romance Writer. Remember to keep sending in those letters at dearromancewriter.com. We can't wait to tell you what to do. Dear Romance Writer is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love, frolic.media/podcasts.